All right. So we did the first chapter, right, of radio navigation. First chapter told us how the radio waves are formed. It also told us what are the basic things we need to remember. That is frequency, wavelength, and speed of light. And quickly revising what we learned was that a radio wave is a EM wave or an electromagnetic wave. It depends on the polarization, whether which type of component is in which direction. All right. So let's start the second chapter today. How, okay, last chapter what we saw that how the radio wave is formed. In this chapter, we're going to see how this radio wave travels. Okay, that's the thing, radio propagation theory. Okay, you can see in this diagram as well. This is a transmitter antenna. We call it TX. This is the receiver antenna. We'll be calling it RX. Okay, so you can see here that our radio wave travels from one point to another. Now, this receiver could be your aircraft. The transmitter could also be your aircraft, and we'll see various combinations throughout the journey. As I told you, propagation simply means how the radio waves travel through the atmosphere. Okay, the different frequency bands, as we saw, there are many multiple frequency bands, so all have their different propagation through the atmosphere. Okay, what are the factors which affect the propagation? Now there must be some factors also. For example, let's take a simple example. We know that sun lights up and its rays are coming on the earth. So when you stand behind a building and it is the sun rays are blocked by you, so this is a factor which is affecting the sun rays, and that is how we're going to see how the factors of radio waves are being affected in the different atmospheric conditions. The first one itself is attenuation. Now, attenuation is the loss of signal strength in the radio wave as it travels towards outwards from the transmitter. Basically, attenuation is a word. You need to understand all the frequency, okay, all the radio waves. Let's say radio waves have a frequency. Okay, the frequency is basically how much a particle is vibrating in a second. So we can say that frequency is nothing. It is basically your energy. Okay. So take an example of yourself. If you start walking from your house to some, let's say 1 kilometer, you will start to lose some energy. That's the same thing which happens with the frequencies or the radio waves. When they start traveling outward, they start to losing some energy. Now, this loss in energy could be for multiple reasons. First of all, it's because of it's traveling, so it's wasting some energy inside it. Secondly, there are multiple things. Okay, multiple things. For example, trees. Okay, buildings, surface, and these things are also absorbing the part of this energy. So attenuation has another part into it. Okay, as I told you, attenuation simply depends on the types of surface, frequency in use. Higher the frequency, greater the attenuation. Why? Okay, so if you have higher energy, instead of walking, what you'll do, you start running, and when you're running, you're wasting more energy. That's the same logic you have to apply in this frequency or radio waves. Finally, the polarization. I explained in the first chapter that if you have a vertical aerial, that means a vertical polarized area. Yes. So you haven't taught us chapter 1. I have taught you. You were not present there. Achha. Might be you were not the Chinmay. You were there, right? Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. No, no, no. That day, the one day you didn't come because of a backache. That was the day I'm talking about. All right. So no problem. It's a basics. I think you already know this, right? Formula is simply, if I wanted to derive the formula, I'll just show you how to derive. Let's go off the topic. So if we have frequency, lambda is a wavelength, and c is the speed of light. We all know that speed is equal to distance upon time. All right. So if we write in these terms, what will be the speed? Speed is given as speed of light. So c is equal to distance is lambda divided by time. Now frequency is nothing but 1 by time. So this formula becomes frequency into lambda. So if you wanted to calculate the frequency, frequency will be equal to C by lambda. So this is the most important formula to remember. And about the vertical polarization, it's simple. This is a vertical area. What will happen is it will be sending out the radio waves in this direction, in all the directions actually, but it's vertical, so its component of electric will also be vertical. So this is why it has a longer range, whereas the horizontal will have a shorter range. And the same thing goes for attenuation. Why the vertical aerial has a longer range? Because of the same reason, polarization. Okay, when you are vertically sending out the rays, the energy lost is less. Then we come to same thing, same logic, but what happens is, let's say this is our source, okay, and we are sending out radio waves. When we send out radio waves, we have to realize that this is our range, okay. If you're talking about the range, how do we calculate the range? Just a simple logic is the amount of power you used is directly proportional to the range square. For example, this is also known as inverse square law. Okay, inverse square law. This basically means is, suppose you're supplying P amount of power. Okay, that gives you R range. But now you want to travel 2 times the range. Let's say 2 R. So your power supplied will become 4 times, because power is directly proportional to R square. So it becomes 2 square, that is 4. So in order to supply to the double range, if you want to travel the radio wave to double range, you have to supply 4 times the same power. And let's take an example of 3 R. It becomes what? 9 times the power. This is known as inverse square law. Absorption, as I told you, it's also similar as attenuation, but instead of attenuation is basically losing the energy as you go on from one point to another, but absorption is basically mainly just because there are some objects present, and they absorb most of the energy just in the starting or in the mid part, your range reduces. Okay, this is known as absorption. It's not just for objects, it's also because of droplets, water particles, water vegetations. Vegetation is basically long grasses and all. Okay, and the surface of the earth itself. We'll talk about the ionosphere. That's a later part of this same chapter. So the effect of absorption, okay, except for the ionospheric, important, increases as the frequency increases. Okay, and it's very significant after 1000 megahertz. You can remember these things with two methods. One is of course energy. Secondly, as the frequency increases, we know that lambda or the wavelength reduces. That means that the particles have a smaller wavelength. That means that their absorption rate increases. Why I'm saying this? See, wavelength is what? It's just the distance between two highs, right? Two highs. If I'm drawing two highs, this is my wavelength, right? If I'm talking about the wavelength, let's remove this graph. Instead of this, I'll just draw a line. So I can say this is my wavelength from this point to this point. Now, if I keep on increasing my frequency, my wavelength will start to reduce and become smaller and smaller. Now you understand that if it becomes so small like this is my wavelength at the moment. Water particles, dust particles are also small. So my wavelength will directly be absorbed by these. That is why when you start increasing the frequency, the wavelength start to reduce and it can be absorbed by these small particles as well. And hence the absorption rate increases. So both the fundamentals could be cleared by both the reasons. Then we have the static interference. The static interference is just like your lightning, thunderstorms, all these create some static in the atmosphere. Now this is not static pressure, this is static electricity. Okay, static electricity generated in the atmosphere by weather, human activity, and geological activity. Okay, important thing is the effect of static interference is greater at lower frequencies, whereas VHF and above, the effect interference is negligible. So static is directly proportional to frequency. Okay, the lesser the frequency, the more the static frequency, static interference. Okay, so it's inversely proportional to the frequency in this case. Then we have fading. Now fading is really simple. I have told you that let's have an aerial. This is my aerial or antenna. it is giving off some radio waves. Now the radio waves are traveling in all directions. Suppose my aircraft was in this position. Okay. Now what will happen is, yes, I wanted this radio wave, so the aircraft was able to receive this radio wave. But there was this huge building which was standing here. Now this building, what happened is, because the radio wave also traveled in this direction, it came back after reflecting, and it came back and hit the aircraft. This is known as fading. Okay. Transmissions following different paths can occur for a number of reasons. Example, reflections, and can arrive at the receiver. So this is my transmitter. This is my receiver at the moment. So you can see that at the receiver, I'm having two different sources being sending the same receiver. So the signals will not listen in phase, and this fading. This process is known as fading. Now this phase, you need to understand that. You'll understand the next chapter as well. No need to be confused here. The factors affecting the propagation other than those are simply because of the receiver noise. Now we understand that because whenever we are having, like example, let's take the example of AC, air conditioners, or laptops, they have circuits inside them, they have wires. Okay, when the wires are being flown with, when the wires have current inside them, there is some inside noise. There is a noise that is generated because of the electric components, whatever the reason is, right? So the transmitters and the receiver both have this. Both are having their internal noise. What happens is, let's just talk about the receiver now. If this is my receiver, okay, and I am receiving these signals. If my receiver has internal sounds or noise, let's say noise, okay, it will not be able to hear those or sense those small radio waves, or the radio waves which are having less energy inside them. So what happens is, it is reducing its effective range. So we always need to reduce the internal noise that has been created so that we are able to hear or actually sense those small radio waves. Directivity. Now this is a great example which I always give. It's basically your car. You have driven a car or a vehicle. You have two types of beams. Okay, you have two types of lights in front. One is a narrow one. Okay, sorry, one is a broad one. The broad one is basically used for the surrounding area, close by area. So the same example goes for transmitters. Transmitters also have multiple types. Let's take an example that this is a broad type. Now what happens in a broad type? You can see the range is less. Second type is your narrow. This is a beam type. When you use a beam type headlight in your vehicles, what happens is you are able to create more range. Why? Because this is known as directivity. You are directing all your beam into one direction. Okay, so it increases your range. Range is increased. Lastly, we have is power. Okay, power is basically same as, okay, Lakshmi has joined. I didn't notice. Power is basically dependent on inverse square law, which I have already told, right? It's basically, let's say power is proportional to R square. This is our form. All right. So when you have the notes, either you're creating your notes from your scratch, from your hand in scratch, or you're copying my notes, you're seeing my notes, whatever the reasons, you can note down. Uh, Increase in the power, okay, an increase in the power output of a transmitter will increase the range. हाँ, अच्छा ये, all right. If the power output is concentrated in a narrow beam, this example, then there will be an increase in range or a reduction in power required for a given range. So when you see in this, you are having a higher range, right? So if you are having a higher range when we are directing it, so suppose that I just wanted my radio waves to go from this point to this point, A to B. Okay. Now when I direct when I'm using my directivity, what happens is I am able to achieve more range. With the same power, I'll be able to even travel to C. But I just want to travel to B, so I can reduce my power and I can reach B point. All right. So that is the case. What we're talking about. Okay. So we don't have to extend the. We don't have to use all the power. Okay. All right. So now we'll discuss, there are different propagation paths divided, all right? It depends on the type of atmosphere. So in our thermal structure, if you have studied meteorology or navigation sometimes also is taught, but I think it's a part of meteorology. So you're taught there are many types of thermal structures. Okay, there is a thermal structure where there are many layers in our atmosphere. It starts with troposphere, then we have stratosphere, mesosphere, and so on. Okay, the thermosphere and then okay, exosphere, keeps on going on. So we don't require that much. But here there is some part ionosphere. Okay, now just giving you a brief picture. I'm not going to depths. This troposphere is mostly where our aircrafts are flying. Okay, they can reach stratosphere as well. Huh. No, no, I am not getting what you're saying. Firstly, only homo and hetero. Okay, so these are the two categories. Okay, this is not required. Okay, this was ancient type. Now we are using thermal structure, which is this. No, no, no. It's in the middle of meso and thermo. Okay, it's just in the meso of thermo. I'll show you a diagram. If I have the in the meteorology, I'll show you. So it comes just between them, and it's a great explanation. Also, I'll make you understand. So what happens in troposphere is we have a lapse rate. Okay, the lapse rate is 2 degrees per 1,000 feet. Basically, when you're climbing up, your temperature starts to reduce. But in the stratosphere, it has opposite effect. It has an inversion. So when you climb up, your temperature starts to increase. Why is that? Because of the presence of ozone layer. The ozone layer is actually present in the stratosphere. So enough about that. Then we come to mesosphere, and then again our temperature, okay, as the altitude increases, the temperature starts to reduce. But when we reach a part of mesosphere, just before we end to mesosphere, we have ionosphere. Now in ionosphere, what happens is we understand that the sun is not only giving us sun rays, it is also giving us something known as radiation. Now this radiation or UV light, when it hits the atmosphere, it charges the particles, and this is in the ionosphere. In the ionosphere, okay, it's all represented here. In this ionosphere, we have charged particles. Now these charged atoms or particles are also known as ions. Okay, that is why the name ionosphere. Now this is the reason the temperatures also rise in these layers somewhat. Okay, in the ionosphere, the temperature starts to also rise, and we'll only discuss about these layers. Why are we discussing this? Because these are charged, right? These atoms are charged, and as I told you in the starting, the frequency or the radio waves have frequency, and frequency is nothing but it is just the energy. Energy is also a part of charge. Okay, so this is the basic logic you have to apply in this. Why are we studying this? Yes. No, it's not called inversion layer. I don't remember this, but it might be some people call it, right? You don't have to memorize this. Okay? It's not going to ask also. If you're giving the meteorology exam, then definitely I'll get back to you. But anyways, let's come back to topic. Went into depth. So as I told you, charged particles are a frequency. If you are higher, that means it's charged, and that is why we will discuss ionosphere, because it's all about the charged atoms. So briefly, it is divided two parts. Okay, this is the non-ionospheric, wherein we'll be traveling just above the surface. So for the surface wave, and we'll be traveling. Okay, this is space wave, but don't confuse yourself. I'm not traveling to the space. It is basically not touching the surface or somewhat directly. If I have an aircraft, this is my aircraft, and this is the ground. So if I'm sending out a direct signal, that is a space wave. Okay, we have a different slide. Don't need to. This is just an introduction. Then we have the skywave. We not discuss SATCOM because this is for the satellites. Okay, and sky waves is what we're going to discuss in the ionosphere. Okay, let's go ahead and start one by one. First, it is surface waves, and as I told you, it is just above the surface. What we're talking about. So this is our transmitter. This is our receiver. You can see that one wave goes from to the other part. Surface waves propagate exist at the frequencies from 20 kilohertz to 50 megahertz. So it can be said to around VLF. This is the VLF, I think. The upper end of VLF and the lower end of VHF. Okay. So VLF to VHF. They reach receiver by traveling along the surface of the Earth. The portion of the wave in contact with the surface of the Earth is retarded, causing the wave to bend round the surface of the Earth. This process is known as diffraction. Now, who knows what is diffraction actually? Can someone else give an example? Yes.
I just remember the definition.
You can go ahead.
Actual bending of light as the same as diffraction, but diffraction there is medium changes. There is a change in medium, but in diffraction there is no change.
There is no change in medium. Then why is the bending happening?
Because the electric wave coincides with the Earth so it bends towards the direction.
I think you're partially right. But does someone want to add something? An example, maybe? Lakshmi? Lakshmi, are you there?
Oh, yes, sir.
Are you thinking?
The example will be like CD-ROM.
Okay. Chinmay, yes. Do you have an example?
But might be the reason why they are
No, no, that is not the reason. Okay, Rupesh has joined us. We'll just give you an introduction afterwards. Rupesh, do you have an example of diffraction or any explanation? Prism. Uh, Prism. That is scattering of light. That is not diffraction. That is scattering of light into different waves. All right. So we'll just give you a small example. It's basically if you look closely, okay, when the sun is shining, okay, and you see that there are multiple clouds, okay, if there is a small section of clouds, let's say, okay, that is just opened, what happens is the sun ray actually only one of the ray, sorry, a small amount of the ray will actually go inside this cloud, right? When the small amount of ray is going inside the, instead of just hitting one point like this, it will actually form a, you know, a bigger path like this, because they are giving off the signal, they are giving off the sun rays. So this is an example where you have seen live diffraction. What is happening here is the light or the EM waves or the radio waves in this matter, mostly they bend around the surface. What is the example I'm giving? If you have a cube, if you have some object, let's say in your hand, and I would like to actually, I would like you to do an experiment also. Take yourself and look behind this, stay behind this and look into the sun. What will happen is you will see that light is bending around the, and you'll be seeing somewhat circular shapes. Instead of this cube, you'll be seeing this being circular. So this is the diffraction. It makes the EM waves look like it is bending. So that same thing actually happens in Earth, on Earth with the surface wave. All right. So this is two. There are two examples. You find it really interesting phenomenon. The losses to attenuation by the surface of the Earth are greater over land than sea, because the sea has the good electrical conductivity. Now you need to understand these two things. Attenuation is what, and absorption is what. Secondly, electric conductivity. What happens is, if I'm talking about two places and between them there is a big lake, is a transmitter, this is my receiver. Okay, so what happens is, when I am see above the lake there is no structure, there are only water droplets and all. So the attenuation drops. Easily we can know that range increases. Then what is this electrical conductivity? Now you should understand that atmosphere or air is the poorest conductor we can have. But this lake has water droplets, so water is more better conductor than air. So this is the second reason. Both the reasons tell us that the range will increase over the water, but by how much? This is the value. The range over the sea is equal to 3 times the root of power. Okay, power is the amount of power we have applied for transmitting that wave. Okay, so these questions are directly asked, and this point is really important. Okay, this point has been added by me myself. I have studied this. You'll not find that in much books, but Oxford might have this. So go ahead and study. So this is important formula, might be asked in the exams. Please note it down if you can. Next is your space wave. Now, as I told you, space wave, don't confuse yourself with the space. It has nothing to do with the space. It is basically a direct wave which is hitting from the aircraft to the transmitter, or from the transmitter it is hitting the aircraft. Okay, space wave consists of two. One is a direct wave, which I just told you. As I also mentioned that the transmitter or the receiver, okay, the transmitter, let's talk about the transmitter. The transmitter is not just transmitting in one direction, it transmits in all the directions. So one or two, some of the waves just reflect from the earth in this matter, reflect from the earth and reach the aircraft. This is also termed as fading, but this is sometimes also used actually to give off the signals. And this is known as ground reflected wave. Direct waves, as I told you, this is the direct wave, and in the frequencies which are used are VHF and above. Okay, there is something called line of sight being used here. I'll explain you what line of sight is. Line of sight is giving us the range, both for the surface wave, the previous one, okay, surface wave, and let's say, and the direct wave. Both have a range, okay. You can always calculate with the help of power, but if power is not given in the question, how will you calculate the range? Range is basically 1 point, it's already given here, I'm just explaining you, 1.23, open the bracket, root of height of the transmitter. So transmitter, this one, plus root of height of the receiver. This will give you the range that your radio wave can travel. Okay, and the answer is always in the nautical mile, because in aviation distances are always calculated in the nautical mile. This answer will be nautical miles. Ground reflected waves, these ones, waves reflected by an object or let's say ground, and it is always reaching later than the first one. You can see in this picture as well. Okay. If I erase this, so you can see this example. What is happening in this example? This is a surface wave. I mean, this is supposed to be a surface wave, but if let's say I have a tower here, this was surface wave, but this is an example of direct wave. Now, when the transmitter is transmitting the wave, it has not been diffracted. That is the reason it has just traveled above the aircraft. So the receiver is not able to receive this radio wave. Now, how can an aircraft receive the radio wave? By increasing the height, because the formula states what? 1.23 times the height of the transmitter plus the height of receiver. Otherwise, if the aircraft does not increase the height, how can he or she receive the signal? By traveling closer to the transmitter. So if this aircraft was here, you can see that it might be able to receive the signals, whereas here it is definitely not receiving the signals. So in exams, the questions can be asked like this also. The range is given, the range would be given, the transmitter height will be given, but you will have to calculate the height of the receiver. That is questions which can also be asked. Okay, so we talked about the space wave and our surface wave. Now let's come to the next topic, which is the ionospheric propagation. I've already explained to you a lot about ionospheres, that there are charged particles. Okay, these charged particles are known as ions. Okay, now because this layer is a broad layer, it is traveling upon kilometers, it has also been divided into subcategories. Now, these categories are named as delta, echo, foxtrot 1 and foxtrot 2. Okay, you should understand the charged ions. Okay, the charged ions are present. Why? They are present because of the UV radiation. The sun is giving out UV radiation. Now the UV radiation is nothing, it is heating the atmosphere. When the atmosphere heats up, the atoms are also charging up. Now, when I'll talk about summers, let's talk about summers. What happens in summers? We have a lot of heat already. So there you can see the ionospheric layer expands. So it is even reaching the heights of, let's say, what is the heat? It's 450 kilometers. Whereas the D layer exists same. So my range in the summers increases. Why? Because already the atmosphere is heated up. Now, if I have UV radiations also, the ionospheric range has increased. Whereas same, if you see in the winter day, you can see the range reduces, or the layer, okay, the layer width will reduce. What is F1 and F2? What happens is, as I told you, with the seasons also, this changes. It also changes with the day or night. In the daytime, you know the sun is shining. When the sun is shining, we always have more radiation. More radiation means more charged particles. So in the night time, this radiation slows down or stops. I'll not say stops, it slows down, it becomes less. When it becomes less, you can see F1 and F2 come together and become F, right? The D layer vanishes and I am left with just E layer, because you should understand it's the night. The night does not have the sun shining, so the charged particles are not present. But because there are still some particles which were ionized, so E and F still exist. This is the table you have to remember, because now we're going to discuss how different frequencies and how do we use our sky waves. Okay. So as I told you, UV rays emitted from the sun impact the upper layer, causing the electrons to. Yes, Lakshmi.
What are the F1 and F2?
See, F1 and F2 are also layers. What happens is, in the winter and the summer daytime, we're talking the daytime, the sun is shining, so there is a bigger range. Okay, there's a bigger range of charged particles. So we had to divide the F layer into two components, F1 and F2. Okay, whereas in the night time, the charged particles reduce, so they contract, they come together, and the layer also contracts. So the layer has contracted. Okay, it's nothing, it's just the layers. Okay. All right. So we were discussing that the UV rays that's the same reason the electrons are emitted, and these free electrons are form the ionosphere or the ions. Okay, since the absorption of solar radiation is uneven, the ionosphere exists in the three layers which I have told you. The ionization is most intense at the center of the layers, decreasing towards the lower and upper edges. So in the center, where let's see E layer exists or F1 exists, that is the point where we'll find most of the ionization. Okay, you should understand the reasons. If you have a little, if you have a curiosity, I'll let you know what the reason is. Anyways, the lowest layer is D. The average altitude is 75 kilometer. It is known as D region. The next one is E. It is at 125 kilometers average and is present throughout 24 hours. We saw that, right? The D layer vanishes in the night time. Okay, vanish in night. Whereas E layer is for 24 hours and is known as E layer. Finally, we have the F layer. F is at the altitude 2 to 5 kilometers. It splits into two at sunrise and rejoins at sunset. Okay. F1 layer reducing in altitude at sunrise and increasing the altitude after sunset. We saw that in the previous table. Okay. You can see the F2 layer in the summer daytime, it can go up to the axis of 400 kilometers. So the range has just increased. The width of the layer has increased. All right. So let's see what is the variation of density depends on. Now this is the same table. Okay. I have already explained you the daytime, the nighttime. It's just the same thing in words. Okay. Diurnal variation, we also know what is diurnal. It is basically day versus night. Okay, so day versus night variation. Daytime, more ionic density is present. At night, D layer vanishes. E layer intensity reduces and it rises. E layer was C, it was still here. If you see, E layer has risen. D layer vanished. F1, F2 merge and form one layer. This is the F1 and F2. What is the seasonal activity? You can see summer and day. Maximum activity when the sun is the closest. Okay. So in this case, in the winter time, you can see there's a maximum activity over the southern hemisphere. So we'll have the summer in that portion. Frequency and use. High frequency requires higher electron density to refract it. You should understand what I'm talking about here. If the frequency is high, it requires higher electron density to refract it. Okay. When the frequency is high, my lambda is less. When the lambda is less, you should understand if I had space between my particles, space between my air particles, my radio wave would pass through and it will not refract. So if I have more density, let's say this is more density in the atmosphere, if the same radio wave tries to pass through, it will have to actually refract because it will now go through these dense particles. So it will refract. Now this refraction is very, very important. We'll discuss this in our slides. D layer refracts low frequency around 500 kilohertz. E layer is up to this and F layer refracts this. Why is this happening? Because as we are going up, we should understand the density of the charged particles is increasing. All right. So if I have a high frequency, that means that it will keep on penetrating and reach the F layer, because this is the place where there is more density of electrons. Okay, that is why as we keep on going, suppose let's say take a small example. Okay, I am having a 1000 kilohertz or 1 megahertz frequency. Okay, what will happen to the 1 megahertz frequency in the summer day? In the summer day, we realize that this is the place where we have ionic density. Let's say ionic density like this. Ionic density is high here. Ionic density here is less. So what will happen to this type of radio wave? It will keep penetrating, and finally when it reaches here, it will start to refract. Okay, it will start to refract. Why? Because the density here is more. All right. Let's discuss attenuation of radio waves in the ionosphere. Now attenuation, what is that? It's just the absorption, or it is the yes.
Ionosphere is like ion density is larger in D layer.
In D layer. No. It is larger between the portions. Okay. If you remember, I'm telling you, the ionospheric density is larger in the middle section, not below, not high. Why? See, yes, I'll explain you that also. Sun is shining here in all the section. Let's say, if you talk about this, ions are present here. And if you talk about ions, they should be highest in the F layer. But there is something else. These ions have some mass. When they have mass, they are pulled down towards because of gravity. When they are pulled down, that is why in the middle section they are mostly present. Okay, it's a balance between your UV radiation and my gravity. Okay, so it's a balance between them. That is why not the D layer, not the F2 layer. It is between F1 and E. There is where we'll find the most amount of density or ion density. Okay.
But large number of ions are present in D layer.
Where is it written? So let me know if you find it. Okay, I remember this only, but let me know. Definitely let me know. Okay. All right. Attenuation of radio waves in ionosphere depends upon density of layer. Of course, density will increase the attenuation. I have already made you understand that. Penetration of depth, that is basically the penetration of the radio wave. Deeper penetration of the radio wave means more loss of energy and more attenuation. Okay, so it's basics, right? The more I wanted to go deep, the more someone will stop me and the more energy I'm using. frequency in use, lower the frequency, greater the attenuation. We have understood that, but see what is here. It's opposite that we have understood. Till now, what we are seeing that if higher the frequency, higher will be the attenuation. But in this case, because we are talking about the ionospheric, we are having the opposite. Okay. What is this? Lower the frequency, greater the attenuation in this case. Sky waves. Yes, if the radio waves travel across the layer at right angles, they will be retarded, but will maintain a straight path. Now we're talking about the sky waves, enough of ionosphere. Now you understand what is ionosphere. So let's see how the sky waves are forming. So what is it saying is, if I am having an aerial, an antenna, okay, and it is sending out radio waves in this direction, vertically up, okay, let's say vertically up, it will keep on penetrating and it will never return back. Why? Because there are different layers and they will absorb this radio wave. But okay, see, the amount of refraction experienced by radio waves is dependent on both frequency and levels of ionization. So in this case, I'm not putting the radio wave at any angle, so they will keep on going and getting might also pass the ionosphere and shoot outside the earth. It can be possible if I have a higher frequency, but in this case what is happening is mostly it is absorbed by the ionic ionos layers. So these are the two examples you can see here. Okay, this is the vertical, this is my transmitter. I am transmitting the rays. These are the two examples you can see. Vertically, if I had transferred, yes, there would be slight refraction, but that refraction will not cause them to refract totally and come back to the earth. Why? Because this is refraction slow, and finally once they leave the ionospheric region, they are escaping the atmosphere. But what are they talking about is, if I increase my angle, or this is my transmitter, right? So if I increase my angle and suppose I sent out the ray like this, okay, let's say this is my ionospheric region. What will happen is it will keep on going, it will keep on going, and once it reaches the ionosphere, okay, it will start to refract, and it will start to refract so much that it will keep on coming back. And once it comes back, you know that it has to hit some point on the earth itself. So this becomes a receiver point, and this is a transmitter. Now the first point, okay, you saw what I was keep on increasing my angle till this wave returned to earth. So there would be many examples. One would be this, one would be this, and finally I would have this one, this ray. Okay. Now these example ignored. The first wave, or the first radio wave which was able to come back to the earth, that wave making an angle, okay, that is known as first returning wave. First of all, okay, this is the first returning wave. And secondly, we're talking about this angle, let's say mu, it is known as critical angle. Why? This is the least angle at which the radio wave is able to come back. Now this is refraction, of course, but there is another term for it. It is known as total internal refraction. Let's read the same thing here. Starting from the vertical at the transmitter with a frequency which penetrates the ionosphere, this one, okay. As the angle between vertical and radio wave increases, we're talking about this angle, an angle will be reached where total internal refraction occurs, this part, okay, and the wave returns to the surface. This is known as first returning sky wave, and the angle measured at which it occurs is critical angle. Are we clear about this? Any questions? Any doubts? Okay. What about others? No? Rupesh?
Sir.
No? Lakshmi?
No, sir.
All right. So now give me an example of total internal refraction. Another example other than this, total internal refraction. Good. Very good. Mirage, yeah, you can say, but it is more of, yeah, we can say it, but it's not total internal refraction, I think. Anyways, another that,
Optical fiber.
no, that is a good example. All right. Diamond. Okay. Diamonds are shining so much because of the total internal refraction. Once the sunlight comes inside, they are designed in such a way that internally they are refracting the sunlight. That is why they bright up, they shine up so much. Okay, perfect example for this. Okay, coming back to the topic, I want you to see this figure and realize what I just told you. Okay, and this is our first critical wave. The distance, see, this is the first critical wave, right? This red one. The distance which is covered from the transmitter to the point where it hit the earth, this point. Okay, this is known as skip distance. Why? You remember skipping a place, right? You're skipping with the help of your, jumping. So that is the same thing. You skip the distance and reach that point. That is the same thing which is happening with this. It is known as skip distance. All right. And after this, you keep on increasing the critical angle. See, all other waves are also coming back to the earth. All right. This is known as skip distance. It is really important. Skip distance. Why? Why I was talking skip distance. Now I have two types of waves. One is surface, the other is sky. Yeah, of course, we have somewhat other known as space, but we're talking about the surface and sky. When we talk about these two things, surface wave has a particular range. Range is equal to line of sight. The sky wave has a skip distance. Okay. Now understand this. This is the maximum value. This is the minimum value. Okay. Now you see that. Let's see this figure now. There is a critical angle. There is a first sky wave which is returning back. This is my skip distance. Okay. And the surface wave, you can see surface wave also here. It goes from transmitter to whatever the point it has till the attenuation occurs and it is lost. This is the point, it is of maximum range or line of sight. This is the maximum and this is the minimum. So difference between the maximum and the minimum, or difference between the range of my surface wave and the sky wave, gives us a small portion. The small portion of the earth is known as dead space. Why dead space? If I have an aircraft in this area, the aircraft will actually not be able to get any radio waves because this is the minimum distance. Okay, if I wanted to have a ray here, I won't be able to have it with the same critical angle. I will have to reduce my critical angle. When I do that, I will have what? My radio wave will go outside. So this is not possible. Other way I can do it is increase the surface wave, but only way I can do that if I increase the tower height, but I can't do that as well. So this is a space known as dead space where there is no signal receivable. Okay, same thing written in here. All right. Okay, so this area is known as dead space. All right. Have you understood? Okay. So this is a table which tells us the same thing, whatever I told you, and some more things which are written in the book. If I increase my frequency, what happens to the critical angle? It also must be increased. When I increase my frequency, what happens is the penetration depth, okay, penetration depth will also increase. So critical angle must be also increased. So what are we talking about is if we increase the critical angle, so my range will also increase. So the skip distance also increases and the dead space also increases from both ends. Why? Because this is the new layer which is formed because I just increased my frequency. Other point is if I increase my power from the transmitter, here the critical angle will remain the same. The skip distance also remains the same, but it decreases from the ends. Why? Because when I increase the power, my range of my surface wave increases. Okay. All right. Whereas we saw that in a surface wave, the frequency does not matter. Frequency matters in the sky wave only. So we're talking about the sky wave here and the surface wave. And these are the types of questions it asks. Okay. The DGC will ask you how to, when does the dead space increase or decrease? You have to remember all this in your mind, then only you'll be able to derive this column. Okay. Let me know if you have any doubts in this. This will easily fetch you 1 marks in the exam. All right, no questions. Let's move on. The same thing, effect of change of frequency. All right. As the ionization increases, the refractive index is what? Based on the density of the particular layer. And hence the amount of refraction affecting the radio wave will also increase. I've already explained you, it's written in the book, that's what I've written here. This means that the diffraction will take place at a smaller critical angle and skip distance and the dead space will decrease. We're talking about the ionization here, okay? If the ionization has increased, okay, as ionization increase, the refracted index will also increase. Hence, what will happen? Okay, we're talking about, this is my vertical, okay? If my ionization has increased, my refraction will also increase, okay? So that means that the radio wave will also try to come back earlier, okay? Let's say this is a normal example, okay? It's a normal example. If I were to draw a area, let's say the ionization has come down here. Now what is happening here is, okay, you see, so here what has happened is my skip distance has reduced and my dead space has also reduced, okay? Try to get to the depth of the questions and try to remember these things, then only you'll be able to solve the questions. Lastly, we'll come to the height of layers in this topic, okay? As the altitude of the layer increases, the skip distance will also increase. The vice versa. The thing which I taught you, the opposite if happens, the skip distance will increase. Greater ranges will experience by refraction in the F layer and E layer. Important point. This is a really important point. Okay. Since ionization levels are lower by night than the day, it follows that the frequency required for use at a particular range by night will be less. So frequency we're talking about night, day, it is approximately, if you're using the frequency, let's say F in the daytime, okay, we're talking about the frequency, night will be F by 2, approximately. Okay, always remember this. The thumb rule has already told you this. At night is roughly half that of required a day. At least one question could be asked in this chapter from this only. Okay, please remember this. Okay, now let's come to something new. This is known as multi-hop refraction. Okay, now if you see the figure or the picture, you will clearly understand what I'm trying to say. If I have a lot of energy in my frequency, in my radio wave, what happens is, even when they hit the ground, okay, they still have a lot of energy left. So they bounce back up and again they refract back inside the earth. So my overall range just increased. This is known as multi-hop refraction. If the returning signal is strong, it will be reflected back to the ionosphere again. This may happen several times and may achieve ranges half the diameter of the Earth. Now imagine that is how much. Okay, this is known as multi-hop refraction. Another new thing, it is known as super refraction. What is super refraction? With the word super, you can understand it is increase in the refraction. This phenomena, which is significant at frequencies above 30 megahertz, which is VHF and above, radio waves experience greater refraction. That is why they are bent downwards towards the Earth's surface more than in normal conditions, giving a notable increase of line of sight ranges to as much as 40%. Basically, we're talking about the surface waves. Okay, if you see in this picture, okay, this is a super refraction happening. Okay, this is the normal one, this is the super. When this happens, you should understand that the aircraft which is at low level height, it is still able to receive that particular range. Okay, usually my range formula is what? 1.23 into height plus height of receiver in bracket rules. Okay, usually my formula is this. But in this case, what happens is even when my height is less, I will be able to receive the same radio wave because of this super refraction. You must be wondering, how does this happen? This happens in these conditions. Okay, when there is a decrease in relative humidity with height, temperature falling more slowly, okay, with height than standard. When it starts to fall more slowly, what are these conditions? You can see what is common in all of them. Fine weather in high pressure systems and warm air flowing over cool surface. In all of this, you will see that the density overall is reducing, right? You'll see that in all of them, density overall is coming down. And when this density overall comes down, you should understand that the particles or the radio waves have a lot better range than normal because the attenuation is less, the refraction increases. The opposite part of the same thing is known as sub-refraction. Okay, okay, we have something else also. I'll explain you that just before that. Duct propagation. Now it's the same phenomena as I told you, two things, multi-hop plus your super refraction. If you combine those two things, we have something known as duct propagation. Now this phenomena happens in a duct. See, this is a duct. Okay, this duct, if this duct is created, what happens? The radio waves have a lot more range that they cover up instead in normal condition. In extreme cases, when there is a low level temperature inversion, what happens in a low level temperature inversion? With increase in altitude, my temperature starts to increase. Now, when the temperature increases, again, you should understand what is happening is temperature density is reducing. Okay, keyword here is density is reducing. Humidity increases. Okay, decrease in humidity with increase in height, simply for dry air cooler. A low level duct is formed, like this duct is formed at this particular phenomena, and frequencies above 30 megahertz, again VHF and above. Okay, this phenomenon is known as duct and can lead to exceptionally long range. Basically, when we have this phenomena, the radio waves tend to get trapped inside this container or this duct. And when they get trapped, they have nowhere to go. They just have one way to go, that is front, and they increase the range. This is known as duct propagation. And finally, I was telling you the opposite of super refraction is sub refraction. And you can see in here, this is my normal. The sub refraction is above my normal. This is a rare phenomena. Okay, and here what happens is the line of sight range goes, okay, decreases by 20%. The conditions are opposite, so in this what happens is density increases. You can see all the results. If the increase in relative humidity, temperature decreasing with increasing height, poor weather conditions, low pressure systems, cold air over warm air, all of them are indicating you what there's an increase in density somewhere. All right, that marks the end of this chapter. Do we have any questions? No, it's a good chapter. I'll tell you. Mostly radio wave propagation questions are asked in your exams. Okay, if you don't have any questions, tell me a small. I'll ask you a small example. I'm trying to fly from UK to USA. When I fly from UK to USA, I noticed that in UK it is approximately, let's say, 6 a.m. So in the USA, it is still behind. So it will have, let's say, 12, let's say, yeah, 11 p.m. Okay, so it is night and day. I started my day and I was using, let's say, 100 hertz frequency. Can you tell me what frequency I will use when I am over USA? Okay, around 50. Why? Okay, is he correct, everyone? Lakshmi, Rupesh, Sarthak. understand the question. I'm traveling from this point UK to USA. Okay. I started my journey. When I started my journey, UK, I had 6 a.m., which was day. Okay, I was using 100 hertz of the frequency. This is the frequency. And when I was just above USA, let's say New York City, and I was at New York City, can you tell me somehow, somewhat, what the frequency would I be using? Sarthak? Are you guys there? But they are not responding. Rupesh,
Yes, sir.
do you understand the question?
Yes, sir.
Do you know the answer?
I think I know that. I'm not sure, sir.
Go ahead, give a try. I'm not gonna give you a beat. Go ahead. Lakshmi, Sarthak, you can also try.
I think it should be less than, but not half.
Okay, good. Sarthak, Sarthak's gone. I think he's left. Rupesh, then what's your answer?
Not sure, sir.
Yeah. So as I told you, there's a thumb rule. Okay, I explained to you there's a thumb rule. And the thumb rule gives us what? Approximate answer was 51. So this is how the questions will be asked in exams also. So basically, in USA it is night, still night. Okay, this diagram will not be given, so you have to apply some brain. Yeah, US will have night and UK has day. So in daytime, the ionospheric layer does what? It expands, right? So the 100 hertz frequency could be used here. That will give me the range. But when it's night, you should understand that the D layer vanishes. There is E layer only. Okay, let's draw the diagram here and make you understand the same thing. Okay, this is my daytime. Okay, in the daytime, I had this frequency, there is radio wave, and this came back like this. So this was my range. Let's say with F frequency. But now if I use the same frequency in my nighttime, the D layer vanishes. So this is E layer, this is D layer. So the same frequency goes here, then it reflects and comes back here. Okay, so my range has increased. Okay, my range has increased. Yes. Okay, so the only option, see, my aircraft is here, right? No. So my aircraft is this. I am the one transmitting this. Let's say, okay, and this is my receiver. Now, why would I use a lot of power and frequency when my receiver is here? Okay, so I will just remove this. Instead of using the same frequency, I will reduce my frequency. And when I reduce my frequency, I can still receive the same output with less frequency. So I will use, instead of F, I will use F by 2. This is the thumb rule. Okay. All right. So we'll end the session today. Okay. And go ahead and do the questions of first chapter and the second chapter as well. This is the second chapter. You'll find the books. I'll be sending you one Google link. You will find them. All right. And let me know if you have doubts. And Sarthak, you can let me know your questions of Keith Williams. Others also try to do the Keith Williams. It's going to help you. Okay. All right.